Hello everyone. I am Ted, Certified Bob Ross Instructor, and welcome to my New Year's Eve Spectacular. We're going to do a crazy painting here today using a bunch of different tools, a whole mess load of paints. I've got my Bob Ross canvas here, a 16 by 20 set up in the portrait style. And, well, let's get right into it. Let's see what we're going to do. Look at this palette here today. Boy, count them out. We've got just about every color in the line here. Titanium white, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, mountain mixture, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, sap green, phthalo green, cadmium yellow, Indian yellow, yellow ochre, and bright red. I think the only one I don't have out there is midnight black. Maybe I'll have to throw that one out there just so I can say we used every single color. First thing that we're going to do, coat this canvas. You can see here, hopefully, that it has a very light gray coating on it. So that makes it easy to see when we have the liquid white. Put a little bit of liquid white out there. Now, if this gets a little too boring for you, feel free to skip ahead. But I use a small amount. You can see here, my brush looks almost dry, but there's still some paint there. And this stuff spreads, and we want to get it all into every little nook and cranny of this canvas here. Now this canvas, as I said, has got a light gray coating to its double primedness. It is double primed with the gray gesso, very light gray gesso. So I'm just going to work it in, focusing, making sure I get some there on the edges. Gosh, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but my brush has a little bit of paint residue from my class yesterday, so it's not perfectly white. It has just a touch of well, some dirty paint thinner in it, which is a little bit of yellow and green. I did some crazy paintings yesterday. Lots of springtime, summery colors. So my paint thinner ended up quite a bit yellow-greenish. Now you can see here I've spread it out pretty well, but I just keep going over it back and forth, smoothing it out. Making sure that for better or for worse, it's all the same thickness. And I'll do my little touch test here. Look at that, I already got paint all over my hands. A light touch test. And you can see, hopefully here, trying this, there it is. Oh, look at that focus going crazy. There it is, just a light fingerprint look to it. That way you know you don't have too much. If you tap very lightly and it comes away pure white, well, you might want to take a paper towel and wipe some of it away. I'm just going to stir out my brush here. Forgive me here. I hope you guys had a good holiday. I got some pretty cool presents from the family. Getting older now, it's like less video games and t-shirts, and then now it's more Hickory Farms and cheddar cheese. Hot sauces, lots of hot sauces. When you look forward to the foodstuffs, you know you're getting old. So we're going to do this crazy painting here today. Let's see what we're going to do. Should I use the big brush? Should I use the small brush? I'll tell you what, just so I have a little more control, I like using the 1-inch brush here. So let's just get into it. I'm tapping a little bit. Maybe grab a little bit of Indian yellow just to change the flavor. What the heck? What the heck? So I am following along with the very last picture of my 2023 one-a-day calendar. But as I often do. I use that just as an example, and I kind of take off from there and kind of do my own thing. I'm not going to try to replicate it exactly. Maybe I will. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like a nut. Sometimes I don't. I don't know why I said that. But let's go ahead and just have some fun. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to drop a little bit of color down here in the water. I think already I did this a little bit different than Bob. And without cleaning the brush, I'm going to go into a little bit, both sides of the brush, beat some yellow ochre into the bristles. And let's dance a little bit of yellow ochre. Oh, here and there. Just to change it up a little bit so it doesn't look just all one colored. And if you like it just the yellow mix that we did initially, for gosh sakes, do your own thing. I gotta use more of these Bob Ross canvases in 2024. I teach a lot of classes, and these canvases are a little bit too pricey for me to buy, dozens of them every month here. So I use a little bit lower student grade canvas for my classes, but on occasion, I like to use the best here. Super stiff and very, very well toothed. There's a little bit of a roughness to them that really catches the paint in a certain way. Come back here. Oh, let's come back with a little bit of bright red. Push that paint in and just brush it out and leave it. That's probably the hardest thing when it comes to the sky here, is dropping in this color, softening it a little bit, and leaving it. Leave it alone, for gosh sakes. A little bit of the yellow ochre here. Almost forgot. Getting a little color in the water. Maybe a little bit of bright red. Notice how I'm putting the bright red and all these colors down here in the water in, just relatively horizontal. That's what's going to help it look like water in the end. Maybe a little more red right there. Ooh, I like that. Some of that red mixes in, kind of turns a little orangey, maybe. Everything hits that liquid white and kind of changes automatically. Let's make a quick color here. I got my alizarin crimson, a little bit of the phthalo blue. Ooh, that's a lot. Just a lot of paint. I don't think I need this much. That's all right. Maybe I'll do another live video later. You watch Bob on any of the places you can watch Bob now, on Tubi and Pluto and YouTube and this, that, and the other streaming service. Bob always has a ton of paint laid out because he did multiple episodes in a single taping day back in the 80s and 90s. So he always had like a ton of paint out there. All right, if I can just give my brush just a little swish into a paper towel, get most of that paint off, that's good enough. I'm gonna come in here with a little bit of purple now. Work it into the brush. And ooh, I like that purple. Kind of a little bit to the bluer side of purple. Drop some in, I'm gonna leave it alone. Ooh-wee, that's a deep purple. That's for my older friends. It's a reference. Getting it in there. Ooh, that is bold, isn't it? I'm gonna leave it there for a moment, so before I forget, I can get some of this darker purple, bluish purple down here in my water. Not worried about blending. Just getting it out there. Now, to make a slightly bluer purple, I pick up a little bit of that phthalo blue and pound it into this purple that I created. Look at that. And I'm just going to put it on top. It's like a little capper. A little blue, a little of the purple. All I care about is making it just a slightly different color. If you don't have enough color in your brush, it will hit that liquid white and turn lavender on you. So it's okay to mix up a little color a couple of times so it doesn't totally lighten up on you. And if it lightens up, just throw some more on. All right, I'm going to leave that be. Pick up a little bit of that bluish purple, make a little more, and put a little bit down here. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 color sky today. Now, if that's not a New Year's spectacular, I don't know what is. All right. Well, you can see here where our horizon is going to be. I don't know if that was good enough or not, but we're going to work with it. So, I'm coming back with a super clean, super dry, brand new out of the package yesterday 2-inch brush. And I'm going to go over the yellows and the reds, not very much because they're already pretty well blended. But look what happens when I just hit right where the yellows and the reds end and the purple begins. We just want to soften that. Soften that a little bit. Picking up a little bit of paint. I can scrub it off. I can knock it on the easel. It's up to you. Not really trying to move the color so much, just sort of soften it where it lies. Once I hit those edges, crisscross strokes, little overlapping strokes, and that liquid white does its duty. It blends, it softens, it lightens a little bit. Okay. All right, I tell you what, I can't really go back because I'll pull purple right into all this. It'll eat it all up. But if I go back to my other brush that had a little bit of that liquid white residue, it's not going to lighten so much, but it is a cleaner, drier brush, so I can hit it one last time from the light, working my way out to dark. Good enough. Now, one of these brushes I'm going to have to clean. Here, there's no way about it. No way around it. I've got my bucket. I've got my beater bucket. My beater bucket is just a big old trash can with a pipe running through it. So I can beat the devil out of it. Hit it on the easel. That's my tribute to Bob. And we'll go over the water. Soften that just a little bit. I know, I just cleaned the brush. All that just to soften the water a bit. That's it. That's it. Boy, oh boy, I've been out of the YouTube for a lot of 2023. Forgive me for that. But this month I've uploaded, I want to say like a half a dozen videos here. So hopefully going into 2024, I'll be making a lot more videos, and we'll see how it goes. If you like it, you know, drop me a line. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what you want to see. I'm going to take just a little bit of the bright red and my titanium white, as Bob says, titanium white, and let's make some clouds here. I say, let us flutter in a basic shape. Ooh. A lot of times here, if your clouds aren't working, chances are you just don't have enough paint. Now I've got this big old canvas. I'm not used to it. Oh, gotta get even more paint in there, and I scrub in a basic cloud shape. There we go. And my clean, dry 1-inch brush. I'm just going to soften anything but the top edge, just sort of blurring the cloud out, softening the bottom edge. Fluff. A couple of strokes across if it needs it. Got ourselves a little cloud. And we try to do one cloud at a time. If you start to go a little crazy, start to drop them all in at once, it can get away from you. Kind of forget the steps here sometimes. There we go. So what happened in 2023? Did you guys have a good year? This was my first full year of being a full-time certified instructor out on his own teaching classes. I've been a certified instructor since 2017, but I just recently, as of June of 2022, started teaching full-time. I quit my job, put out my shingle, traveled around, all around the country putting on classes. Before it was just on nights and weekends here and there. That's all I could really do because, like I said, I had a full-time job. So 2022, I said enough of that. I want to paint and teach full-time. So I took the plunge. So 2023 was my first full year of full-time teaching. It's been awesome. I got to tell you, it couldn't be happier. I'm putting in layers of clouds here, dropping some bright white right over the top of some of that faded cloud. Help to give, hopefully, an indication of layers here. I got some bright studio lights here, so forgive me, I'm not sure if my head is showing or not. Kind of takes out the glare when I stand in front a little more. Now, I'm going to have a couple of little stringy clouds here. There it is. Stringy clouds are so easy because it takes like 2 seconds to put them in and even less time to blend them. All right. Wow, look at that. We're just cruising right along. We got our sky in there. We got our nice fluffy clouds, some little floater clouds. Got Bob overseeing us here. Let us make a mountain. All right, I'm going to get a little bit of that residue away. I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch over to the big knife. Take some of that mountain mixture and whatever purple I have left. Mix them together, just as long as it's nice and dark. There it is. Cut off our little roll of paint. And let's put in some kind of interesting mountain shape here. Just pressing this paint right into the fabric. Wiping or scraping off the excess. Now I say this mountain's going to come out. And then let's put another little peak right there. Just pushing that paint in, scraping the rest away. And we don't even doesn't have to go all the way out. You know, sometimes you want to fill up that whole canvas. You don't have to. Having a little bit of residue there is fine. We're just going to move the paint anyway and build out the size and shape of our mountain. Let me go ahead and clean a brush or two. What else has gone on in 2023? Well, I started at a couple of new venues, some cities here in Michigan that I've never been to, never painted at. I traveled the country putting on classes and helping others put on classes. I love that Google timeline that you get sometime in the month. It shows you where you were in the previous month. So, seeing there, certain times I've gone to New York, I went to Las Vegas for TwitchCon, traveled up into the very tip of the thumb of Michigan, and gosh, just everywhere in between. So let's take our 1-inch brush and let's slide this color. Look at that. We're just using the color. I pick up some color and I use that to build out the basic shape of the mountain. As Bob always says, we're not committed at this point. We don't know what peak is in front or behind. You can pick and choose at any point here and change your mind a few times. This just helps you lay out a basic shape, but don't worry, you can change it. Bring the right side out to the right, the left sides out to the left. And don't go over it so many times that it all turns into one dead color. Let some of it be darker at the top, let some of it be lighter at the bottom. The more you go over it, the more monochromatic it becomes. There's a nice little shape of our mountain. How does that look on the camera? Not too shabby. Okay, moment of truth. It's been a while since I got the pleasure of putting the mountains in on a Bob Ross canvas. Like I said, these are the best. These are the best for creating these nice craggy mountain shapes. So I don't know why I make the $6 Million Man sound. Seemed appropriate at the time. Cutting off our roll of paint. Let it just graze down. And I like to wipe the knife and get a new roll every little stroke here. Still have some paint on my knife. There we go. Still has a little bit of the bright red in it, so it's just the lightest shade of pink at the moment. Light, light, light. It's the name of the game. And maybe using the short edge of my knife, ooh, that's a lot of paint. Using the short edge and not as much paint, we can put a little bit on that peak there. So the first layer of highlights is in. We're not completely done with it. Just the first part is in. So let me take a little bit of the white. Let me add some of that purple. And maybe a touch more of the phthalo. I think Bob just used the phthalo. I'm using a touch of the purple just to change the flavor. all the phrases Bob used on the Joy of Painting. I really like when he says flavor. Just a different shade there, a different flavor of color. And let's knock off a little bit of that and put in just the start of my shadow. Got some paint on my thumb. All right, let's get another roll of paint. Very gentle, just sort of let it graze down to the left. Now on Bob's version, his was much more blue. Since I put that purple in there, it kind of grazed it down a little bit. Kind of like it. Right up next to the highlight, draw it the opposite direction. Using the small edge of the knife, I'm just going to sneak a little bit in on my little peak here. If you've got some room, you can use the long edge of the knife, but sometimes it does a little too much for my comfort there. Sneak out some little bits here and there. Create some little crags and little thingies. Okay, now the fun begins here. I'm going to go back to my highlight color. Pull some of that down, add just the hintiest of hints of the bright red. Come back to the highlight. And now is where we can create all sorts of different effects here. I'm going to create a little bit of a ridge sticking out. Just by laying in some highlight. As soon as you lay in the highlight, come back with your shadow and give it its own new shadow. Maybe a little bit more right there. Make it look a little snowier in spots. Maybe a little bit more right here. Whenever you do that, make sure to drop in your shadow so it makes sense. And it gives it that nice three-dimensional look. Maybe just a touch right there. Lovely. And you can go over this as many times as you like. You can come back here and add in all the different little bits that you missed, but try not to overwork it. Overworking it can bother you in the end. I know a tendency is just, you just gotta make it, ultra perfect. But once I start overworking it, things can get away from you. Things can get away from you. Something like that. I think we're good to go. Maybe, if you're ever wanting to do more, you want to keep messing with it, well then do just that. Add something new. Add another piece. Look at this. I'm just going to come up here and add a new peak. Let me get a little bit more shadow color going here. I'm going to change the shadow color just a little bit. Look at that new ridge that gets created. Now when I did that, I kind of messed up the highlight, so I fix it. You can go back and make some adjustments here. Just make sure you follow the guidelines here. Add in your little shadows. Add in your highlights. There we go. Highlights and shadows. Highlights and shadows. There we go. Now that we're going to stop with the mountain, let's finish off by creating a little bit of mist and fog at the base. Tapping in, sweeping back. Tap, sweep. Every once in a while, give your brush a quick little scrub or beat it on the easel. The important thing is to follow the angles. Just as important, try to keep it in the bottom inch or two of your mountain. You don't want to be smacking it up here. It'll send the whole mountain into the background or into mist. A couple of crisscross strokes at the very bottom. And we've got ourselves a nice little scene. Nice little scene brewing. Okay, according to my example here, we gotta jump forward into the foreground a little bit. And to do that, we gotta make ourselves another new color. Let's get rid of this shadow color, don't really need it anymore. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take that color, background of the mountain, and let's add to it a little bit of the crimson, Prussian blue. Now we already have some mountain mix here. Add some brown, a little bit of our greens, all sorts of colors. And the end result is very dark. That's all we really need, very dark. And I love having that little tinge of greenish brown to it. So, add some more colors as you see fit. Get it to the flavor that you like. And wipe your knife and set it aside. Now, I'm going to use my fan brush here to lay some of this in. I use this one, the fan brush I used for the clouds, so I just wipe it in my paint thinner and brush it out really well onto your paper towel. Load some of this nice and smoothly into your fan. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently press up. Let's see here. Notice how I'm putting it right down in the misty area at the base of the mountain. And I'm actually going to put it in a little bit bigger than I ultimately want, because we're going to use some of that color to turn it into the reflection in the water. So it's okay if you do a little bit heavier, a little bit wider, or a little bit thicker, whatever way you want to think about it. Taller. And as I move to the right, I'm making it a bigger wedge of color because it's looking like it's going to be coming towards us. Okay, and to really bring it forward here, let's drop in a couple of trees. Got my brand new fan brush here. Allows us to make some nice little evergreens. Taller ones here or there. It's up to you how tall you want them to be. Tapping in a basic shape. Not a lot of detail way back there. I don't know if this tree is closer or it's just a bigger tree. You figure that out for yourself. Okay. And I'm going to take my 1-inch brush, gently pull the bottom edge of that down, all that little land mass there. Very gentle. Notice how my handle is way over like this, and I just want to barely touch it. Soften that reflection a little bit. There we go. And with a little bit of the liquid white, just going to mash it down here. It picks up a little bit of that titanium white, not much. The liquid white, titanium white mixture there is, I just find it to be a little more controllable. The titanium white can be a little too thick. For way back here, the liquid white a little too thin. But again, it's up to you. You got to try and find out what works for you. You might have better luck with one or the other, or a different combination of thicknesses. There it is. Just want a skinny little line back there. Now, I'm going to use a different fan brush here with just a touch of the liquid white. And I'm going to go into my yellows. Ooh, lots of yellows. And just a touch of green. I'm trying to find this dullish yellow green. It's not super bold, not super green even. Maybe a little bit of that dark color. Ooh, that dulls it down, doesn't it? Just a little bit of highlight, just here and there, just to say we did it. We don't want it to really stand out so much. And we can even drop in just a little bit of highlights back here, just by pushing some of that color up. Not a lot. If you can see a little bit come off, that's probably good enough. Even a touch of red back here. A little bit that catches the light. That's good enough. All right, let's come back to our dark color. Loading tons of paint into the brush, just nice and smooth. It's time for a big tree. That's your bravery test, right? Look how that thinner consistency dark color we created sticks right on top of the titanium white of the mountain. That's Bob's golden rule. A thin paint sticks to a thick paint. It works just like it did back when Bob was on TV. Works perfectly just now. Now I'm going to, forgive me here, just wanted to make sure my tree was semi-centered. Forgive my skull. There it is. Make a basic tree shape. And hey, let's make an even bigger one. All it takes here to make a bigger tree is more paint. Maybe reload it a little more often as you go down the tree. You can make trees whatever size and shape you want. Just take it one step at a time. Tapping that brush, letting the bristles bend and create the basic shape that the tree requires. Sometimes you make them a little wider. Usually as you're working down the tree, trees are usually wider at the base, right? This one here being so close to the edge, it can just go right on off. We don't have to worry about it too much. And it can overlap on this side, it can overlap that previous tree. And we get to figure out which tree is in front later on. We don't have to decide now. Cool. Couple of big old trees. And these trees gotta live down here, so maybe we can just tap. We don't have to figure it out quite yet. We gotta figure out where these trees are living. So we just put in a little bit of land like that. Now I think it makes sense to have this tree be a little bit bigger. Maybe this one's in front. Maybe this one's in front. I haven't decided. Okay. Now I'll take with my knife here a little bit of the two browns, dark sienna, Van Dyke brown. Cut off a little roll of paint. Let's have a little semblance of a trunk here and there. Put in this little stalk at the very top. And then lightly touch a couple different spots. Get in the dark. Come back with my titanium white. A little bit of the dark sienna. And I can put in a little highlight on those trunks here and there. Boom. Good enough. Okay, so now that we've got these trees in, let's go ahead and highlight them. A little bit of that liquid white. And again, we're going for a duller look on these trees. Not really like a springtime green, more of a duller green. Have some green in it. You do you. I'm kind of going for maybe it's a late summer type scene here. Leaves are a-changing. Things aren't as bright as the sun is setting. And which tree did we decide it was in front? I think this one is in front. So I'll do this one first. Touch. Tap, 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 tap. Come back and let's do this one now. Trick is, don't over highlight. I think that's just about it. Now when I put my big old noggin in the shot here, I can see a couple of spots where it needs an extra one. Leaving this bottom alone because we're gonna be doing something with the bottom there. In our scene, we get the fairly rare double lake. Okay, the double leg. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a spoiler. I'm going to get plenty of color up into this 1-inch brush. Pull. Look at that nice texture we got on our paint here. Turn that brush upright, and let's put in, oh, just a big old bushy tree. Coming right on down. And it just sort of turns into bushes. It's going to come right on over. And meet up with those other trees there. Maybe. There we go. Want it to be fairly dark so that it stands out against the water. And then we're going to have kind of a, maybe a little cove thing happening here. Don't really have to decide quite yet exactly where it lies. Focusing mainly on this top part. We don't care about the bottom right now. There we go. And I'm going to immediately go in and clean that brush. I do kind of like to clean my brushes as I go. That way when I'm done with the painting, I don't have to clean 40 brushes. There it is. And we're immediately going to go into a touch of that liquid white. And we're going to have ourselves a pretty dull color. Maybe a little bit of the cad yellow, yellow ochre, and I'm going to pull some bright red into it. Get ourselves a nice dull orange. That tapping kind of pulls that paint out of the bristles or gets it right up on the tips there. Helps it with mixing as well. Maybe a little redder. That's it. Kind of want this rusty orange color. Lots of paint worked up into these bristles. That way, we just barely touch. One little clump. And we work just one clump at a time. As I work my way down, leave a little dark area in between so we can create layers of these leaf bits here. Make ourselves a pretty little tree. Maybe just a little bit more. Added a touch of red here. Maybe it gets a little deeper in shadow down here. There we go. Perfect. Darks and lights working together. Now, change things up a little bit. I'm going to go right back into my liquid white. Come over here and start pulling in some yellows, maybe a little of that Indian yellow. Same thing, lots of color. And we'll put some bushes here and there. These are in front of that tree. I'm just mixing up different colors here. Changing the color a little bit for each of these little bush sections. Working my way down to the water edge. Maybe there's a nice bright one right there. There we go. And some duller ones in front of those. Those variations of colors really help create that illusion of layers in our scene. Some of them are catching the light and might be a little bit brighter. Some are deeper in shadow, therefore a little darker. And sometimes we just like to put in a firecracker. I love those little bright ones. There we go. So let us take a little bit. Ooh, what a mess we are making. Let's get some of this out of the way. Let's take a little bit of that Van Dyke brown, cut off a little roll, and let's just layer it right on down. Ooh, just before we do that, oh my goodness, we almost forgot. Let's take some of that color. Create a little bit of reflected bush colors down here in our water. Add a little bit to my brush here. If you don't have enough to move, just grab a little bit more from your pile and pull it right on down. 2-inch brush. Soften it as you need to. There we go. Now I can go in with my brush, or my knife I should say. I think I used the big knife, I just picked up the small knife. It doesn't really matter. Drop in some dirt. Just some nice earth stuff. Just sort of slathering it in sideways. Wipe the knife, get some of my titanium white dark sienna mix, and very lightly graze over here and there. However much of this you want highlighted, but leave some of the dark. Gotta have the dark so that the light stands out. Ooh, there we go. A little extra white in there only helps. Only helps create variation. Now I'm going to use a little roll of the liquid white, titanium white mixture, and this time I'm going to have this waterline be a little stronger. Just sort of sawing back and forth, bending the blade a little bit. Now I'm going to change it up a little bit, and let's just say, oh, we've got a little foreground going in here. So we just darken it up. There we go. And let's see here, we got all these dull colors here, and the oranges and yellows and greens and reds. Dropping in some highlights here and there. Don't forget about the firecracker. And we just add various little highlights all the way down here and there to get our scene. What I'm going to do, of course here, gotta have a big old tree right in the middle here, or right at the end I should say. Maybe. Boom. Look at that. Look at that bird. Beauty. Beauty, beauty. Little bit of brown, dark sienna, little white, kind of mixed together. Give this tree a little character here. A little bit of bark. Bit of dark brown here. Just thought it wasn't quite dark enough down in this area. There we go. One thing I can do here with just a touch of the Prussian blue. Let's see here. You can just add in some deeper shadow on this side with a little bit of the Prussian blue and brown. Just to darken that one side. Now I come back with my liner brush and my Van Dyke brown, and we can make some branches. Very, very thin paint. Adding in a couple little thingies here and there. Little branches and little mini branches. As many or as few as you think your tree needs. Couple right here and there. I'm going to try not to go right over the top of my mountain. But some of these branches can swing this way and that, around the tree, across the center, coming right out from the center. It doesn't always have to be right on the edge. And sometimes you can use the liner brush like I'm doing here and just make a little adjustments that the knife gave that you didn't like. Change it, add to it. Put in as many of these as you need to make little adjustments here. You'll figure out how many how many branches your tree needs, and you'll get in just the right amount. Maybe these ones here on the bottom are come out a little wider. I think the ones over here on this side are a little tougher to see, but you can still give it a try. Use a thin enough paint and it should go over pretty easy. And just like that, we've got ourselves our finished painting. I'm going to hide the foot of the tree. There it is. And with our liner brush, we'll go old school Bob here and sign it with the bright red. Ooh, that's going to be tough to see. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just sign it with the bright white. That way we can see the signature a little easier. Not that you have to see the signature super clear. I just wanted to show up on the video for you. A little T, a little S, a little 2, and one of the, I think the last one here, unless I do a stream, the last 3 of 23. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Forgive the little bits of cuts or whatever if you happen to see those. My camera is acting a little funky. So I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much. See you in 2024.